I am Tom Beaumont, and I am a retired assistant professor, always assistant professor. I never made it beyond that grade, and psychiatric clinical social worker at the University of Minnesota. My primary work was working with students on the campus and off, either as part of their social work, internship education, or working with students who were having individual or social psychological difficulties or felt that they were, and trying to advocate for them on the University of Minnesota campus. Currently, I'm long retired. I did that for about 30 years. I am fairly deeply involved right now in transportation, both intercity and intracity issues having to do with trying to develop a car-free, or at least diminish the amount of time, energy, money, and resources we have to put into the automobile, with the feedback, with the reward of pollution that comes with it. And it's also a matter of helping underserved populations get transportation at a cost they can afford, to support, as they do, in a very basic level, our whole economy. I'm talking about people in hospitality, people who dig ditches, people who do what I call the real work in our society. Well, when I first started at Oregon as an undergraduate student in sociology, that was in 1969, and there was no Center for the Study of Women and Society, and actually there was none until after I graduated. And by the way, it was 69 that I graduated from the university, at 65 when I first came to the university. And I got there about the same time as Mrs. Acker did, later Professor Acker, and of course one of the founders of the center. And I was floundering around personally, and well, I guess you'd say avocationally or vocationally. Not even sure I wanted to be in school. After my first year, I was assigned to Mrs. Acker as one of her advisees, because everybody else in the sociology department was a big deal, full professor, and certainly not dabbling in things like as mundane and pedestrian as social work. So at any rate, that's how I got to know Mrs. Acker, and very quickly she gave me a sense of actually having some value and being able to do something worthwhile, even in the field of social work, which she herself was having, I think, a little bit of uncertainty about. As we talked along about it, she was sort of glad that I was a male going into what was considered like nursing and education, one of those entry level professions where women could make it. And but she also pointed out frequently that we men, the minute we got in there, took over and became the administrators and the people who really ran the roost. And she thought that I think, not exactly what she told me, but I think she thought that I might be able to use my I guess malehood as a way to resist that and to stay in practice, which is what I wanted to do. And after a while, she talked a little bit about some of her emerging theories of feminist, I guess you will, sociology or psychology, whatever, and some of her ideas about the need for amalgamating all sorts of different strings of study to make a whole net, if you will, um, um, of of study in the effort to bring everyone up, to help everyone fulfill their highest potential, including, of course, particularly women who, for the most part, had been ignored in a lot of the research and most of the fields that I knew of and that we talked about. So, and then I now and then we'd write. We weren't really, I wouldn't say deep friends or like that, but we were just sort of acquaintances that orbit around one another through one's life and mean a lot, but or at least to me, I mean, she meant so much to me, and she was such a model for me with things that she told me and stories that she related to me. Um, but that I just felt that, and she's always been a touchstone for me, of one of the touchstones that I have of, now what would Joan Acker do? If I can carry that analogy a little further than it's meant, I guess. But um, and and so I, when I was out in the Pacific Northwest, a couple of times I went to see her, and of course during that time is when I learned of um, this emerging uh, center, which just sounded so very exciting, and all of the universality of it and the seriousness of it, and the fact that it was actually being taken seriously somewhere around the around academia, really was impressive to me. And then I'll tell you, when I made the little uh, contribution, such as it was, to the 50th anniversary um, thing, when people were, I of course attended the whole thing, and when people were singing her as well as I think it's Dr. Morgan's praises, but I couldn't. I can't tell you how my heart swelled and my soul swelled, and it was just that I really had been in touch with one of the jewels of my era.